Everyone has a price. That is what they believe about me. That everything I do, every decision I make, every direction I turn, has a calculated number behind it. A return on investment. A projected outcome. A logical framework. And for most of my life, they were right. I built empires on logic. I replaced emotion with efficiency. I treated sentiment like a system error. Something to be identified, isolated, and removed. Because sentiment slows you down. And I could never afford to be slow. But here is what nobody tells you about building everything. When you finally stop. When the meetings end and the screens go dark and the noise of the world finally falls quiet. You are left alone with the one question that no algorithm can answer. Was it worth it? Not the wealth. Not the legacy. Not the headlines. But the life. The actual, interior, unfiltered life. I sat with that question for longer than I will admit. And the answer that kept returning was not a strategy or a vision or a plan. It was a person. One person. And then last night my son cried. And everything I have ever built suddenly felt completely meaningless compared to that single moment. That is when I knew I had to say this out loud. Directly. Completely. Without calculation. He cried last night. Not the kind of crying that comes from a scraped knee or a bad dream or a toy that broke. This was different. This was the kind of crying that comes from somewhere deeper. Somewhere that even a father with every resource in the world cannot immediately reach. I sat beside him. I held him. I told him everything was okay. And he looked at me with those eyes, those completely honest, completely unfiltered eyes that only children have, and he asked me a question that I was not prepared for. He asked me when you were coming home. And I had no answer. I, a man who has an answer for everything, sat completely silent. Because how do you explain distance to a child who only understands presence? I have launched rockets into space. I have rebuilt industries that everyone said were finished. I have sat in the most pressure-filled rooms on the planet and made decisions that most people would collapse under. But nothing, not a single moment in my entire life, has ever humbled me the way my son's tears did last night. Because rockets can be engineered. Industries can be restructured. Pressure can be managed with the right frameworks. But a child's longing for a complete family cannot be optimized. It cannot be solved with resources. It cannot be scheduled into a calendar. It simply exists. Raw and honest and undeniable. And it broke something open in me that I have been keeping carefully closed for a long time. I want to talk to you directly. Not to the world. Not to the cameras. Not to the people who will analyze every word I say and build narratives around it. To you. My future wife. Wherever you are right now. Whatever you are doing in this moment. I need you to hear this. My son needs you. And if I am being completely honest, which I am choosing to be right now in a way I rarely allow myself publicly, I need you too. Not as a concept. Not as a future plan. Not as a someday that I keep pushing further down the timeline. I need you now. He needs you now. There is something about watching your child reach for something you cannot give him that restructures your entire understanding of what matters. I have given him everything measurable. The best education. The best environment. Every opportunity that exists on this planet and several that I am actively creating beyond it. But last night he didn't reach for any of that. He reached for warmth. For the specific kind of softness that a mother carries. For the presence of someone who would hold him differently than I do. Not better. Differently. Completely. And I felt my own limitations in that moment more clearly than I have ever felt them. I am a good father. I say that not with arrogance but with the quiet certainty of someone who shows up fully for his children every single day. I am present. I am engaged. I am committed. But presence has dimensions. And there is a dimension of nurturing that I watch him search for in the spaces of our home. In the quiet moments between activity. In the way he sometimes pauses and looks around the room as if he is waiting for someone to arrive. That someone is you. Even though he has not met you yet. Even though you exist for him only as a feeling, as an absence that he cannot name but somehow already knows the shape of. Children understand things that adults have trained themselves to ignore. They feel the atmosphere of a home without being able to articulate it. They sense what is missing without having a word for the missing thing. And my son feels you missing. He feels the space where you belong. He has felt it for longer than I have allowed myself to acknowledge. Because acknowledging it meant sitting with something I could not immediately solve. And I am a man who solves things. I am not comfortable with unsolvable feelings. But this is not unsolvable. This is simply a matter of closing the distance between where we are and where we are supposed to be. Last night, after he finally fell asleep, after his breathing slowed and his small face relaxed into the particular peace that only sleeping children have, I sat beside him for a long time. I watched him and I thought about what kind of life I am building and whether the most important parts of that life are actually being built or just being planned. I think about the future constantly. It is how I am wired. Always forward. Always projecting. Always building toward something that doesn't exist yet. But last night my son reminded me that the present is not a waiting room. The present is where he lives. Where he feels. Where he needs. And what he needs in his present is you. I know what people will say. They will say I am projecting. They will say this is strategic. They will say everything I do is calculated and this is no different. Let them say it. Because the only audience that matters to me right now is one person. You. And I need you to know that this is the least calculated thing I have ever said. This comes from a place that exists entirely outside of strategy. It comes from sitting beside my sleeping son with tears on his pillow and feeling the specific weight of wanting to give him everything and knowing that the most important thing is not something I can purchase or build or launch. It is simply you. Walking through our door. Staying. I have thought about what our life looks like when you are in it. Not the grand version. The ordinary version. The version where you are simply present in the rhythms of daily life. The version where he wakes up in the morning and you are there. Not as an event. Not as a visit. There. Consistently. Warmly. Completely. I think about him running to you with a particular energy that children reserve for the people who make them feel safest. I think about the way his whole face will change when that safety is present every day instead of longed for every night. That image is more motivating to me than any mission I have ever undertaken. And I have undertaken missions that most people consider impossible. You are not impossible. You are simply not here yet. And I am asking you directly, without the layers of strategy and calculation that usually surround everything I communicate publicly, please come home. Not because it is convenient. Not because the timing is perfect. Timing is never perfect. I have learned that in every domain of my life. You wait for perfect timing and you discover that while you were waiting, the moment passed. The child grew. The need deepened. The absence calcified into something harder to address. I will not let that happen. I am choosing to address it now. There is a version of my life that continues at full speed without you in it. I have seen that version. I have lived that version. It is impressive from the outside. It is productive. It is efficient. It generates results that the world measures and celebrates. But when my son cried last night, that version of my life felt like the most catastrophic failure I have ever experienced. Because what is the point of building a future for my children if the present they are actually living in is missing something this fundamental? What is the point of reaching beyond this planet if I cannot create the warmth that my son reaches for in his own bedroom every single night? He deserves more than impressive. He deserves whole. He deserves to grow up in a home where love is not an absence he is waiting to meet but a presence he wakes up inside of every single morning. He deserves to have someone who holds him with the specific gentleness that I watch him search for. He deserves to bring you drawings from school and tell you about his day and fall asleep knowing that when he wakes up you will still be there. Not visiting. Not passing through. There. Belonging. Permanent. And you deserve to know that. You deserve to know that somewhere in this world there is a child who already needs you before he has even met you. Who already feels the shape of the space you will fill. Who cried last night not from pain but from longing. From the deep, wordless, completely honest longing that children feel for the things that are meant to be part of their lives. He is already reaching for you. He just doesn't know your name yet. I am not asking you to enter something easy. I am not pretending that a life built alongside mine is without complexity. It is complex. It is loud. It is public in ways that most people never have to navigate. There will be opinions and scrutiny and noise that follows us into spaces where most couples find privacy. I know that. I am not hiding it. But I am also telling you that inside all of that complexity, inside all of that noise, there is a little boy who will love you with the completely uncomplicated, completely unconditional love that only children are capable of giving. And that love is worth every complicated thing that comes with it. I have built things that change the world. I intend to build more. But the most important thing I will ever build is not a company or a spacecraft or a technology that reshapes civilization. The most important thing I will ever build is a home. A real home. Not a structure. An atmosphere. A place where my son wakes up feeling whole. Where he grows up understanding what it looks like when two people choose each other fully and stay. Where he learns that love is not something you endure across distance but something you build in shared space every single ordinary day. That home needs you in it. Not eventually. Not someday when all the details align perfectly. Now. Because last night my son cried and asked when you were coming home and I sat beside him in the dark and I made myself a promise. I promised him that I would stop treating your arrival like a future event and start treating it like the present priority that it actually is. So this is me keeping that promise. This is me saying directly and completely and without any of the careful, calculated distance that I usually maintain. Please come home. Come home to him. Come home to us. Come home to the life that is already waiting for you, that already has a shape designed around your presence, that already feels your absence in the quiet moments and the nighttime tears and the way a little boy looks at the door sometimes as if he is certain that today might finally be the day. I need you. He needs you. And I am done pretending that patience alone is enough when my son's tears are telling me something far more urgent. Distance had its season. That season is over. It is time for presence. It is time for home. It is time for you to walk through that door and stay. Not for a visit. Not for a while. Forever. Because forever is the only answer that makes sense when a child asks when you are coming home. Come home. We are ready. We have always been ready. And we will be here, both of us, waiting with everything we have, until you do.